The mics are hot and the takes will be even hotter. Welcome to episode 3 of Birds vs. Boys, powered by Branded Sports. As always, you are here with myself, KMess, and my good friend, the one and only Aidan Powers. My friend, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm getting excited. I've been talking fantasy lately. I've been talking NFL lately. We're getting closer. Inch by inch, we are getting there.
But inch by inch, I think we're getting further away from college football. So the NFL may have to be our savior this year.
Absolutely. So by the time this drops, I mean, during this podcast, most likely the college football
We're
season could
losing.
end.
Yes, right
Not even
now.
when this drops, just during the recording, it could be over just like that.
We could break
But
news while it happens, but then you're going to find out in the future.
you're going to find out in the future. That'd be a great live reaction, though. But you know what? The NFL, we talked about it last week, is the unstoppable force and is the heavyweight matchup for COVID. So we've named it the Around the Coronavirus segment, but this time it might be positive for the NFL. You know, if college football folds, that opens the door for the NFL. They kind of cannibalize the market that college football left behind.
So we were chatting a little bit today through text and everything, and you said you had some good hot takes on if college football is canceled. It's probably, yes, it is. I mean, so what? The Pac-12 is done. Big Ten is done. But those crazy people down south are not going to give up their football that easily.
There's
right?
no way.
Like they're going, and they're going to have tons of thousands of people in the stands in Tuscaloosa too. Everything's fine.
Absolutely. If they could, they would. They are the violinists on the Titanic. They're just going to play till that thing sinks, no matter what. It doesn't matter.
And they're going to be playing the Alabama fight song with their violins as they go down.
Yeah, absolutely. That and the other famous song at Rocky Top. Like, it's just going to go down. They're just going to go down with the ship, and they're okay with that.
They're fine with it because they don't really, like we said this last week too. Those small college towns, they don't have anything else. Like this keeps them alive.
Yeah.
12 months.
It kills their market. It really does. And like you said, a lot of small towns like this, a lot of television revenue now. They weren't going to have fans, but now the television revenue for a lot of these schools who football loses them money anyways for this. I really don't know how some of these schools, not Alabama, but some of the smaller ones, I don't know how they recover, but it's just another opportunity for the big bad monster, the NFL.
So if those Saturdays, I mean, Maction Wednesdays are already gone too. So those Friday nights, those Thursday nights, those Saturday afternoons, evenings, those are all going to be wide open. So give me your takes on what the NFL does.
I have a few good ones about the NFL. It's just so funny how everything comes up NFL all the time. So they're going to have the entire weekend to themselves. They're just
going to have the entire fall to themselves.
Yeah, the entire fall to themselves. No sports, just the NFL all weekend, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. They're going to lock Chris Hansen in a room. He's not going to be able to piss for 36 hours. They're going to lock him in that green room and run games for 36 hours.
We are live for 36 hours.
He's doing Octobox from 1 p.m. on Saturday until Sunday at 7 o'clock, whether he likes it or not. He can't eat, sleep, piss, nothing. He just has to do NFL games that whole time.
I want a live webcam on him from different angles while he's in the red zone. You can watch him on red zone, and then you're also watching a live stream on your iPad of just him like rocking in his seat because he's got to piss.
The NFL Red Zone Plus, but instead of games, it's just an Octobox of Chris Hansen. And it's just 2-liter bottles of soda, kind of like that episode where Dwight was working himself to death and he didn't want to waste the company second, so he was just pissing in a bottle at his death. That's going to be Chris Hansen. Like, no joke. The NFL is going to start on Saturdays. They're going to play Saturday games, and they're going to go straight through till Sunday night, and then he's going to log off. They're going to show all the touchdowns, and then he can go collapse and die. Like that guy who
until the next weekend where they come back and they revive him for the next weekend.
Absolutely. He's going to respawn.
So, I mean, besides, probably we're going to have, well, I don't know if we're really going to have baseball leading into the fall. We will have hopefully golf too. The Masters is going to be played in November and then again in April. So if you were the Masters champs in November, your reign is very, very short. But besides that, it's going to be the NFL show.
Exactly. And this is my other take where we might be the first podcast to ever come out with this take.
Okay, let's do it. We have the Hawaii take, and the NFL needs to listen because it's still a great opportunity.
The Hawaii bubble was our first idea ever. We came out hot. Now this is mine. You might not agree with it, so it might not be a full podcast.
Are we actually going to have a disagreement on this podcast?
Yeah,
this argumentative
it took 3
podcast that we
episodes
agree?
in our debate show, but it might actually happen. So here's my take. This podcast right now, pro Roger Goodell.
I'm listening.
Here's why. It comes back to the college football thing that we talked about earlier. Just an absolute mess. I was reading an article in which they quoted West Virginia's athletic director, and they asked him, look, you're facing the real possibility that this season's going to be canceled in fall. Do you guys have a plan to put this in place for spring? And he literally said, well, no, we haven't discussed it. We don't have the organization going forward, and we haven't really talked to anybody about how that would work.
How's that possible?
Exactly. This pandemic started in March.
Like we saw this coming.
Every single day. Did you not turn on fucking CNN once?
I don't care
Did
if
you
you're
not
watching
see
CNN,
the graphic
Fox.
where 100,000 people died? Did you check one time? Like, how could it be 5 months and you don't have a backup plan? You're just sending these kids back to school and just saying, get on the football field. You earn $0 and we'll figure it out later. How is that your plan?
This reminds me of like the scene in Varsity Blues when they're walking out of the strip club and they're like, do we have to play today? These guys have just been locked in a room watching film since February. And they're like, wait, there's a pandemic? What?
There's a pandemic.
I thought we were just playing football. I don't get it.
Yeah, they just kicked the can down the road, and here we are, and they're not going to have a season, and they have no backup plan.
And that reminds me,
what's that?
Is the NCAA the worst organization in the entire world? Like they haven't even said a thing. Like they're just like, yeah, the conferences can do what they want. Like there's no, like they're the governing body. They should have a plan.
Yeah. The U.S. government, the NCAA, it must be nice to just do that job. You get paid a shit ton. You never have to make any decisions. And you know what? You never make the right ones when you do. And you just kind of screw everybody else over except yourselves. And you get away with it all the time. And there's usually no repercussions.
It's like being a weatherman.
There is.
They are weathermen. That's what they are.
Pretty much.
Never get anything
wrong all the time. And they don't get faulted for it at all.
Nope. That's exactly.
But this is for the NFL, though. The organization that the NCAA lacks, the NFL always seems to have. We did that NFL draft live stream. It went off without a hitch.
Yep.
Every single time. And it got close where the players were like, hey, you guys don't have health and safety measures set up. They got that done. They're in training camp right now. They're going to hit full pads next week. This thing is going.
Oh,
it's just going. Yeah, it's happening. And nothing's stopping it. And now they've cannibalized the market, and they're going to have all the weekends, every single weekend in fall to themselves. Roger Goodell, you know what?
He's going to be fat and happy.
He survives every single bullet who comes his way. He ducks and misses and keeps on going. He's got Captain America's shield, and the NFL is the shield, and he just keeps on going, and they keep on making money. Nothing ever stops this train.
Nothing. And if this train somehow slips off the tracks, he's going to somehow blame Tom Brady and suspend him like for 14 games.
14 games.
But the Patriot fans will be happy because then maybe he'll never have been a Buck. But you're right. I mean, it's the NFL, like we said, and like you said, is the shield. Like it reminds me, there's a show out called Snowpiercer right now. It's crazy where it's a futuristic thing where the whole world's frozen, but there's a train that just keeps going around the world, and everybody on the train's fine because the train never stops, and it just cuts through ice, and that is the NFL. The world could freeze, but they're gonna find a way to keep playing football. Like we're all dead, but they don't care because they somehow cryogenically re-enhance their players. They're playing with robots now, and they're playing football.
Yeah, like an iRobot, they would just bring Patrick Mahomes back with that robot arm that Will Smith had in iRobot. And now he can throw it 90 yards instead of 70. That's pretty much how it would go.
I am starting so I'm the type of person where I'd rather be negative in the beginning and be pleasantly surprised than be very positive in the beginning and then upset when it doesn't happen for me. So
sounds like you make a good Sixers fan.
I am a good Sixers fan. So I gave up on college football a while ago. I didn't see it happening. I don't understand. One college football player dies and no president of any university wants that on their hands. That is pure blood on your hands that they will never get off. Mm-hmm. So I kind of gave that up. but I am starting to really, really, really think the NFL is going to happen.
I agree. I totally agree. And it just seems like in other sports, there's these little hitches that just send them off and just derail them so quickly. And the Major League Baseball, we talked about their response to the pandemic, and it was terrible. The
Still
Marlins
is.
went out for milk. I could go
Mhm.
on for days about how that's just the
Milk.
most ridiculous excuse of all time. But even the Astros thing and how they really just handled everything, the entire fallout from it, seems like everything that they hit derails them. The
Yes.
NFL, they just take everything on, and they've dealt with some really serious shit.
Some big
From the
time stuff.
concussions, they hid concussions and how severe they could impact players' lives. They went right through that. They've had a domestic violence issue
Junior
through the
Seau killed
pandemic.
himself,
He
and
killed
they
himself,
just
and it just kept on going. If think about how serious those topics are: CTE, domestic violence, a global pandemic. The NFL hasn't slowed down not once for any of that.
nothing. They're just like,
Nothing.
"Yep."
I just don't know what's going to stop them at this point. They just keep getting stronger.
And I don't wanna say that's good for us because I don't think they should be able to power through big things like that. Obviously, I feel like things need to change and they need to
Mhm.
take care of things the right way. But at the same time, as a selfish football fan who is almost out of all sports and needs to do something this fall besides go to apple picking and pumpkin patches, I need football. So I kind of want this train to keep rolling down the tracks this fall.
Yeah. So the next step is training camp, and we'll get there. But I think if that goes off, if they put the pads on and they are hitting each other day in and day out, and people are getting tested and coming back negative, then I think you're full go, and we'll be set from there. So we're really close. We don't want to jinx it, but we're really close. And you just look at everybody else, how they've handled it, and it just seems like the NBA has done a magnificent job.
Fantastic.
Everyone else has just kind of took this one on the chin. NFL, they're getting really close to getting an A in how they've handled it so far.
And they'll get an A plus if they somehow, like we said, the Hawaiian bubble is the best option. One, it's not going to happen. So they're not going to play in a bubble. Obviously, the MLB is seeing what not playing in a bubble can do, how it can derail a season. Go back to episode 2 if you didn't listen and listen to our take about how each team can bubble themselves. I think that's a great option for this season to 100% happen. That goes from an A to an A plus. And like we said last week, that is a coach's best dream in the world. He has his
Yep.
players locked under key all season, and they can go from the weight room to food to bed to play video games down to the practice field and nowhere else. I mean, I everybody's like, well, they're families. Well, yeah, that would be the hardest part. But these teams have the ability to also quarantine the wife and the 2 kids. Like they can buy a hotel in Dallas. They can buy a facility in Philly that is, like what are those? The comfort suites? Like that's a suite. Okay. The whole family can live in there for 6 months. We're good.
Yeah, just like that settlement in Walking Dead, except at the end they're not cannibals. That's pretty
Exactly.
much how they can handle it for the NFL. Like, you know who would really agree with us on that right now? Speaking of around the NFL,
Hmm.
Ron Rivera. He would love that idea because of what happened this week with Darius Geis. And we talked about it. Not only would it keep them from falling victim to coronavirus, it would keep them out of trouble as well.
Exactly. Have you ever also seen a guy get off Twitter faster than Darius Geis? I got the news and I looked him up and I'm like, he's he's gone. That boy's
Yeah.
gone.
That was a pretty crazy sequence of events. So he got arrested, he got cut, he was off Twitter, and that was it. And that was in the span of a day. That was less than 24 hours. It's usually not that quick. And it's so crazy because he tore his ACL in his rookie season, and then this year he gets released. To waste your chance like that is pretty crazy. But that's just kind of how Washington has gone. Nothing has gone right for them this offseason. It's not gone right for them for decades.
And something that also just doesn't look right at all. So they cut Darius Geis, which they should have, and I'm glad they did. He deserves to never play in the NFL again. He should be in jail. But then they bring Reuben Foster up. almost the same day, who also has large allegations against him in the past for the similar things. So are they just like they're trading one? They're like, all right, well, this happened just now, so we got to get rid of it, and then we'll just maybe that'll hide bringing in Reuben Foster.
They had to balance it out. Snip, snap, snip, snap.
Can't have two. One's okay.
One's okay. You get one get out of jail free card, literally. That's just kind of it just the culture there is so bad that you just kind of expect it from a team like that. It's just so bad. Everything you've seen from them this offseason, there hasn't been one positive headline aside from Alex Smith coming back, which really the Redskins, when they were the Redskins, fucked him in the first place with their terrible field. Exactly. That's the only positive headline they've had. Everything else has been shit.
And there's going to somehow ruin that. Like he'll be ready to play, but then they're like, no, Dwayne Haskins really should, we want to see what he can do.
Yeah.
Somehow fumble it.
Yeah, they absolutely will. It's just if the Eagles lose to the Redskins week 1, I don't think I'll watch the next 15. You can record this, screen record this, anything you want. Save that audio. I swear to God, if they lose to the Redskins week 1 after everything that team has been through this week, we better not lose. I don't care who the receivers are week 1. We better not lose to a team whose marketing group couldn't even figure out that a fucking hashtag can't be a number. I don't understand how this team can be this bad at everything that they can't even do a fucking hashtag on Twitter. How hard is that?
Mark
That's
the tape.
Thing.
Yeah, every single person who has ever been on Twitter for more than 5 minutes and has pressed the hashtag key, and as soon as you put a number in, it just goes black instead of blue.
It's just common sense because it's a number. It's called a number sign for a reason because then you put a number after it. That's the whole point. It didn't work. Like, what is the chain of command there that all of this dumb shit always happens? Like, they had the sexual harassment allegations, and it was like no one was in charge. Like,
they're just like, I don't know.
Exactly. Like, these poor women didn't have anyone to report to. It just seems like everything that the Redskins do, there's no chain of command where you could be like, okay, this guy screwed up, so let's take it to this guy so we can fix it.
It's like
just nothing.
I think it's just like Daniel Snyder and then just like a bunch of shit.
Yeah, probably literal shit.
Literal shit.
Makes no sense. It's one of the worst run organizations in sports, and it's small things. It's like in FedEx Field, if you've ever been there, there's pillars in front of the seats. So if you buy certain seats, you can't see the game. Just little things like that just sum up where Washington's at. They couldn't think of a team name.
But going to a Washington game, that may be the best seat in the house. You don't have to see the game.
Exactly.
I would sit behind a pole and just drink beer all day if I didn't have to watch the Washington football team.
If I was a Washington football fan, I would probably sit behind that. I would tailgate. I'd go in late in the first quarter, sit behind a pillar, and leave in the third quarter. And I think you'd have yourself a nice Sunday drinking day.
I feel like the fans don't even get it right. Like they dress up as pigs in dresses.
Yeah, there's nothing about that franchise right now where you could point to it and be like, aside from Ron Rivera, who I think is a very good coach,
Agreed.
There's no one thing you can point to and be like, you know what? I really like that the Washington football team does this. Fill in the blank. I would feel free to comment and tell me where I'm wrong and name one thing that this team does.
I feel like obviously concussions ruined his career, even though he did sign with the 49ers now. But I feel like it was somehow the Redskins and the Washington football team and Daniel Snyder were the reason Jordan Reed's career has got, because the dude is a beast. He's a freak.
I love him.
He's a great tight end. I hope he goes out this year and catches 100 balls for San Francisco.
I agree.
He proves that somehow it was Washington's fault.
It was Washington. In this for head injuries, who are you going to agree with? Jordan Reed or the team who let a guy play with a literal tumor in his head? Who do you think was in the right? Jordan Reed, the team who let a guy play with a tumor the size of a tennis ball in his skull.
They're like, no, you're good.
I don't know.
You're good. Everything's fine.
They are just so bad. Everything about them is bad. It's just ridiculous.
The one thing I just can't wait for, though, is to hear the Redskins fans be like, go team this year. Let's go team.
Just go team.
What
go
else?
Washington.
Go Washington.
You can't chant Washington. There's nothing exciting about them. Nothing. There's really nothing going on. And let's get into fantasy because fantasy drafts are coming up. And name one Redskin that you'd want on your team this year after Darius Geis gets released. I just don't know. There's nothing about them.
I may take the receiver, McLeod, who was a rookie last year. He did ball out last year.
He
And
did. Yeah, that's true. I think later in rounds he'd be good. It's good
I
to
mean,
get into this.
if it's him and Larry Fitzgerald in the 10th again, you're probably going to go
Don't
Larry
do it
Fitzgerald.
again. It'd probably take Larry Fitzgerald, but I would think long and hard about changing my mind.
So if we're talking fantasy, okay. So just like the NFL landscape is going to look different and is going to be challenging this year, so is fantasy.
Mhm.
So I want to see where you're at. Like, are you excited about fantasy this year? Are you a little lackluster? How do you think drafts? Like, we're not going to be able to do live drafts. I want the sticker on the board, but
Yeah.
sticker's not going to go on the board. So tell me where you're at right now with fantasy.
I am clinging on to it and I'm coming around to it because to me, fantasy draft day is up there with Christmas as the best day of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the rare times fantasy football, you only play half because of the actual football. The other
Yes.
half is it is one of the rare times where you're all together with your friends anymore.
Yep.
Instead of like doing your 9 to 5, you're not seeing your friends every day. So it's one of the best days of the year. But like you said, like in our friend group, a lot of people would have to travel. We have people even overseas who can't come back to the United States right now. So it's
Yep.
like it's going to be a makeshift kind of live draft, and it bums you out because like I said, it's one of the best days of the year, and just like everything else, coronavirus has put a halt to it, and that's where we're at.
And I do. So I'm a big time fantasy guy as well. But last year I had a little bit of a rough season for the first time in years, and it kind of, I don't want to say overwhelmed me, but I kind of towards the end of the season got a little lackluster with it. So I sent out a tweet, and Vince is going to find this and put it up on the screen sometime when he clips it. But I put up a tweet that said, "I'm 2020 is a fantasy free year for me." And I fully take the blame that I ruined the entire year of 2020 just from that tweet.
I think you did.
But now
Matthew Berry might kill you.
he's going to stab me in the eye with a fork.
It's either him or Deshaun Jackson. He's going to kill one of you.
But now I will do anything to play fantasy football. I need it. And like you said, it is. I have a team with my brother, and I get to go on fantasy day and sit there with my brother and draft with all of our friends and eat ridiculous food and drink way too much beer, and then come home and tell my wife about everybody that I drafted, and she could care less, and I love every second of it.
That is the true American dream. In the 1940s, everyone came home from war, and the American dream was just having a white picket fence.
Yes.
That's bullshit. That's just boring. The American dream
100%.
is what you just described. Sunday, draft day, putting stickers on a board. You're going to eat wings and beer with your friends for 6 hours and regret half the picks that you make 2 hours after you did it, after you put 3 months of research into your draft strategy and you throw it all away in the third round. That is the new American dream in 2020, and it's really all we have right now.
And then I'm going to go home and convince my wife that taking Tony Pollard in the 13th round was a phenomenal pick.
Yeah.
And she has no idea what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Great.
The flyer, like hitting on a flyer in fantasy, I don't know.
Nothing better.
Up there with any feeling in the world. Probably like your first kiss at a middle school dance is the same feeling.
Took Patrick Mahomes his rookie year, or his first year starting. Oh my God. Took him late. Rode him all the way.
There you
nothing
go.
Better. There's nothing better. So it is going to be strange, though. I mean, no live drafts. And like, are we going to have to push our drafts like until the night before the NFL happens? Because we're not getting any preseason, or are you just drafting on name?
No, I think if we have this same conversation when the calendar hits September, there's going to be a lot more excitement about fantasy football.
Yeah.
We are doing what every single other person has done in this country, whether it's companies, the government, the NFL, obviously the NCAA. We're just going to kick the can down the road as far as we go until we run out of time. And that's what you're going to do with fantasy football as well in your fantasy draft. So if I had to give it a stance right now, I'd say, no, I'm not excited for fantasy football. I think if you said, okay, Aidan, it's now September 1st. Are you excited? I'd be like, yes, I'm dying for fantasy football because it marks a return to normalcy.
Yes. And I need Larry Fitzgerald on my team.
The 10th. Absolutely. I feel like after recording 2 podcasts where we talked about that, we almost have to take him.
We have to. I think we need to like have a league with just us and some other people, and I may take Larry Fitzgerald 1 overall.
I think, yeah, absolutely.
All right, right now on the clock, you're on the clock. First pick in the 2020 fantasy draft. Who you picking?
Me? Like,
Yep, right
this
now. Right now.
I think Christian McCaffrey is obviously the number one pick. The most usage possible. They
Yep.
use him in the running game. They use him to catch passes. And I'll tell you one thing about Matt Rule. He will pound the ball down the defense's throat as long as he can. If they have a lead in the fourth quarter, Christian McCaffrey might get double-digit touches in a fourth quarter. Not in a game, in a quarter, if they have a lead. That's just kind of how he's always handled his MO in terms of how he runs an offense. So Christian McCaffrey, and I don't think it's close as the second one.
Especially if it's a PPR league too, because you're getting the rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and you're getting a shit ton of catches.
Absolutely.
Look at that. There it is.
Fantasy free for 2020. You really screwed us over.
I didn't even remember that I had the GIF. That makes it even worse. Makes it so much worse.
You really kind of screwed up on that one. I'll tell
Ladies
you
and gentlemen, I would like to apologize to everyone. I am the reason. It wasn't a guy who ate a bat. It was me. It was this tweet that ruined the entire year of 2020.
Between me saying that we are a pro Goodell podcast and you ruining fantasy football for everybody this year, I don't think we're going to increase our ratings and listens this week.
No, I think we just got 0.0s across the board in ratings.
Probably. That's a lot of 1 stars coming, but we will recover. I think we'll recover. We've got a good segment coming up. So we're going to bring Vince in here in a second, who's our producer. He does a phenomenal job. If you've seen the teasers on Twitter, he does all of those for us. So we want to talk about, we kind of talked about Washington and just how they suck at everything. But when looking at the cities themselves, there's a lot of crazy headlines where you're like, holy shit, how did this happen?
So we got New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and Dallas.
Which are obviously huge media markets.
Yes.
So a lot of crazy shit happens when there's a lot of people in one concentrated area. So we're going to do a segment called NFC Least City.
Love it.
Vince is going to give us a video, and it's just going to be a video. We're not going to know the city. Me and KMess are going to try to guess which NFC East city the crazy thing is happening in. Before we get there, we're going to bring Vince on right now. Before we get there, I want to talk to you about Bovada. So that's our partner. We've been happy to partner with them last 2 weeks. If you enjoy winning money and you want an easy way to win money, join Bovada. So here's what we're going to do. Same like last week. We're going to put the promo link in the podcast description and all over our social media. If you like winning money, sign up with our link at Bovada. We love them and very excited to be sponsored by them.
I mean, what's better than winning money during a pandemic?
And it's easy. I went on, I clicked on our link just to see what it was like. Cause like I said, I've used them before, so I'm not a new user, but I wanted to see what it was like. Such an easy sign up. It's quick and easy. You could sign up in less than 60 seconds and bet something in less than a minute and start winning money that quick.
Sign up, bet, win money. It can all happen within less than an hour. Done.
And you know what? Football season's coming, and you're going to have 36 straight hours of Chris Hansen on Red Zone, so you might as well get those bets in while you're watching.
Bet. All right, Vince, my man. I'm excited.
All right. So
and for any of you that are just listening and you're not watching on YouTube, Vince is going to describe the video for you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you're listening, go watch it on YouTube. But if you're in the car on your way to God knows where, because you're not going to work, we'll describe the video as it's happening. So I'm going to pull up a video. It's going to be one of the NFC East cities. I always want to say Northeast, but for some reason Dallas is in Texas.
Damn right it is.
So let's start with this video here. This one I found a few minutes before we started today. I don't know if you guys have seen this one.
All right.
If you have, don't ruin it if the other one hasn't. So here we go. We're gonna play this.
All right.
So what city did this happen in?
All right. So here's a cute couple. The lady is not having the best day. She is
I gave her a hug. That's cute.
Yeah, she's being arrested here. And what's he doing?
No, he's not.
He's got some wandering hands. She's wearing some spandex shorts, and his hand is sort of wandering down her pants. But he's not doing what you think he's doing. Look closely.
I thought he was going in for the finger bang. He is just...
What do you think he took out of her pants there?
Was that drugs or was that money?
I don't think it was scented hand soaps.
What a move.
That's a move of the lifetime.
So you think he's being creepy, and turns out he is being a ride or die boyfriend here.
I thought he was going to give her one last, show before she went to jail. But
Yeah.
he's actually so is he doing this to help her so they don't find it, or is he doing it to help himself so he can sell it?
A little bit of both.
Yeah, well, I don't think we know here.
Right,
But
what
the
is
question is, what city is this in?
Hold on,
You want me to go first?
I think that's
I'll go because I have a pretty good guess.
Okay.
So I lived in New York for a few months at the end of 2019. Convenience stores in New York are just lit. Like there's always something insane going on. So this looks like it's in a convenience store. So I'm gonna go with New York. That's my guess. New York City, NYC.
All right, and I'm not going New York here. It doesn't look like an NYPD cop to me. That look at he's got the biohazard tattoo. The cop does. This looks like no, it's not Philly. This ain't Philly too. They wear the light blue. The cops.
Yeah.
I'm going Dallas. This is my Dallas Cowboys. Dallas.
All right, so we have your final answers. We have New York and Dallas.
That's it.
All right, so this happened in South Philly.
No way.
I was on the same page as you, KMess. I was like, it doesn't look like the right uniform for Philly, but I saw multiple tweets that said this was from South Philly.
Yeah, that does not look like a Philly cop.
No, they wear the light blue.
Yeah, and if they're a commanding officer, they wear white. So it's not even. Wow. Maybe this guy isn't even a cop. He just showed up and like neighborhood watch. That's probably how people got away with this move.
Yeah, he had no idea what was going on.
What city it's in, romance is alive and well.
Look at that. All right, so we got one on the board for the Eagles, one on the board for Philly.
Good for these two.
Wow, cuffing season.
That's I'm rooting for that couple. You know.
All right, video.
Love wins.
Number 2. This one's a little fun. It's not as shocking. So,
all right.
Here we have. I gotta find it on this tiny little desktop.
Are they breaking a hot fire hydrant here?
All right. So that's a fire hydrant.
All right.
And they have a giant tube attached to it. And they are
shooting water into a pool.
Filling up one of those backyard pools that you didn't have, but your friend had.
I'm going to go first on this one. That looks like New York all day to me. I could see it maybe being DC, but that just everything about it screams New York City to me.
That does. I'm disappointed I'd use New York City on my last one because that does look like New York City. But I'll tell you what, we just need to shout out the creativity of this.
Yeah. Oh, it's phenomenal.
Think about it. Being in the city, it's tough. You can't put a pool up and with a hose and everything like that. This was creative. I give them an A+ in terms of figuring that out. That's something like if that were your physics class, you would pass. Good for them.
I mean, they could have brought the pool a little bit closer, maybe to help them out, but
yeah, they mistimed that. I will. Wow, that's New York. I will say Washington D.C. because I don't want to go New York twice. I don't know. I think KMess has this one.
You should have trusted your gut. It's New York City.
Let's go. Yeah, that screams New York all day.
It definitely looks like New York.
See, I would have taken the other side. If I wasn't looking up New York City when I found this video, this felt like a Philly thing to me.
Well, we had those dumpster pools back in the day where people literally they had the past legislation that was like you can't rent a dumpster and fill it with water and put it in your street. So I could definitely see that happening in Philly as well. But I feel like why knock people's creativity if they have the insight to pull this off and then the know-how to do it? Then you know what, you win. You get to do it, and it's not illegal.
And it's hot out, and chances are they're just going to chill in the pool. So
yeah, it's 90 degrees all the time. So who are they hurting?
If they're not in the pool, maybe they're going to be getting arrested in a convenience store. I'd rather them be chilling in the pool.
Exactly.
All right, here's my favorite one.
Uh-oh.
All right.
All right, so this is a real quick video, so we're going to play it a lot of times just so you guys get it.
Scooters here.
And you're going to have to describe it, too.
So here's a lady.
Oh no.
Oh no.
All right. She's fixing herself, and it must be another hot day like the pool video because she doesn't
have there's the wipe. She
doesn't look young.
She put a tissue in there. She put a tissue in.
She doesn't look young enough for this to be a precautionary tissue. You know what I'm saying?
Ew.
Oh no.
So I'm thinking This one. Also, I think it's important to point out it's the middle of the day and she's outside in the middle of the street.
It's a beautiful sunny day. All right, I am gonna go.
Well, I mean, let's describe it a little better for the people listening.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I don't want to.
Standing outside in the middle of the day in a city because it's one of these 4 big cities, and she's putting something, inside her underwears.
She's got her pants down in the middle.
Yeah,
This is someone's grandmother, and she has her pants down in the middle of the city, and she's putting a tissue up in her hoo-ha, and then she's pulling her pants up.
Yeah, and at the end, she makes direct eye contact with the person recording this. I don't know if you noticed that.
Right.
And
oh yeah.
also,
right. Oh, grandma.
And she doesn't look embarrassed.
She pulls her pants up so far that her shirt is tucked into her underwear.
I mean, that's the right move.
Important question. What city is this?
I think it's Dallas because it's probably so hot that it gets really hot down there, and she's probably just literally sweating her cooch off.
I'm gonna go. Am I allowed to agree? Because this is a debate show. I would say Dallas for sure. But if I'm not allowed to agree, I'll just throw out DC. But I think it's Dallas.
All right. I cannot believe you guys nailed this. This is Dallas.
Let's go. Oh, look at the little star. Look at the star right there too.
I know. I noticed it just now. I was like, this is gonna give it away.
I wasn't sure if it was a lone star or what, but I just kind of I feel like it gets so hot down in Texas that might be more normal than what we're used to. Texas and Florida, the people down there are insane, one. And then two, it's so hot that I feel like seeing someone with their pants down like that in the middle of the day in the street probably isn't as far-fetched as what we think.
All right, so you guys were both 2 for 3, not bad.
That was disturbing.
Yeah, that was my favorite one.
That was pretty good.
I'm a little shook now. I'm not gonna lie.
I'll see if I can top myself for next week's.
Yeah,
this is gonna be a regular thing here. I think. I
think
enjoy
without
this.
football, this is a good way to pass the time and put in some quality content with some interesting videos, to say the least. So, Vince, thank you for finding those and presenting that content to us. I won't be able to sleep at night.
No,
but we do appreciate you finding those.
All right, we'll see you back next week for something more terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
You'll have to increase them every week.
Yes, it needs to get worse. I mean, I don't know how it can get worse, but I'm sure it can.
Knowing these cities, it absolutely can.
All right. The name of this show is Birds vs. Boys, and we've talked a lot of Redskins. We've talked college football. Let's talk Eagles Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
You have a very, very I can't even say with a straight face and laugh. A linebacker you guys just signed. What happened?
Yeah, so Jatavius Brown retired. I still don't know the full story on why he retired.
Okay.
Nate Gary did come back today, and he is the top linebacker for this year, for better or for worse. At least he is healthy and doesn't have coronavirus, so that is a plus. But even in the plus, we took a minus and lost Jatavius Brown. So it was a pretty interesting day, or interesting week for Philadelphia, and that linebacking core is really something. I have a take about them too.
We need to find out the day he was signed, and then today was the day he retired. And I want to count the days.
He signed in free agency, so it had to have been early March. So he really he never made it to the field. Like, he signed, and then they had the coronavirus pandemic. They just got back into the swing of things because all the offseason workouts were canceled. And they didn't even put pads on. They won't put pads on anybody till the 16th. So he went the entire time and never put on an Eagles helmet. So
his Twitter bio in the future and his jerseys hanging in his basement. Are the Eagles on his Twitter bio? Is that jersey hanging in his basement?
I don't know. You know what? Him and Frank Gore, they should start a book club and talk about their great times with the Eagles.
That's another, everybody's coming to Philly.
Yeah.
And then you get one, and then he leaves.
And it's our fan base. We're getting every single person until they're not here. But they probably should look into linebacker depth, because they lost this one. Like I said, Nate Gary is their best linebacker, and best is probably a term that I should use loosely. He's not bad, but He's not Leighton Vander Esch, or Jalen Smith either. So that is a position of concern, to say the least.
And the best thing he does, maybe flipping off camera people from the bench. That's him,
I
right?
thought that was pretty cool.
I mean, that's a typical Philly fan type. Yeah,
it was all in good fun. And
Fun.
anytime you get drunk, you've had 3 seltzers on the beach, and someone like flips the Snapchat camera to you, and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like, "Oh my god!" put it
Tongues,
on, and
yeah.
put your finger there. Yeah, everyone's done it.
Tongues out, fingers up. You're like, what? And then the next day you see the picture, like, why did I do that?
Why was that my instant reaction to do?
The
But
peace sign. It's like, what?
yeah, he did it. He just did it in the middle of a game, not after 3 or 4 drinks.
No, but some 3 or 4 hits that may make you feel like you're a little drunk. You got that adrenaline rolling. Why not?
Yeah. CTE, not that the NFL cares, but
Will Smith couldn't even solve it.
Will Smith couldn't even solve it. But it does bring up a good conversation topic, because I think for both of these teams, there are positions where you're like, all right, this is a strength no matter what team, like no matter who you face, this is going to be a strength. This is really good. This is a top group in the league, not just the NFC East, not just between our 2 teams.
Yep,
And then
groups you're excited about.
Where you're like, holy shit, that like this could be a serious issue.
This could be bad. So we're going to talk a little position group. So we're each going to go. Look at this. So 4 months, 20 weeks, 143 days.
He was
143 days.
Yeah, he was there 143 days.
I love you. Isn't that 143? That's how he leaves.
Hold on. Look at this right here. So there have been March 21st, 2020. I believe the NBA shut down on March 13th. At March 21st, there were 12,275,387 seconds.
Yes.
The NCAA in that amount of seconds could not figure out how to have a college football season. How do you have that many seconds and you're at August 10th after 143 days? You're like, well, your guess is as good as mine is what the plan is.
I mean,
unbelievable.
We're just going to play. And if we don't play, then we're
we don't
not going to play.
All right. But back to our position groups. So I think it's best. Let's do weakest first, since I have a pretty good take on the Eagles, and it's pretty obvious who I think my weakest position group is. But let me hear yours for the Cowboys.
All right. So we'll do the position group we're most excited about, position group we're least excited about, and then the position group that we think matches up against the other team the best. So we'll start with the position group that I am least excited about. I have sort of like a 1 and 1A here for the Cowboys. It's kind of 2 positions that I could go either way. One's on each side of the ball. I could go tight end. They lost Jason Witten, but I never thought I'd say this, but I'm kind of happy they lost Jason Witten. R.I.P. Jay Witt. Was very excited when he came back last year, but then he caught 5-yard comebacks and then got pushed 12 yards back behind the line of scrimmage, facing the line of scrimmage. So they have Blake Jarwin. They just signed him to an extension. The dude makes plays. He's athletic freak. He can get down the field, but he's never done it play in, play out, being tight end number 1. They signed the Belldozer, the old Oklahoma quarterback who just won a ring in Kansas City, but he's not a pass catcher. They have Dalton Schultz, another name none of you know who that is. He was a Stanford tight end. I think he has a half a catch in his career in 2 years. So that's a position I'm worried about. But I think Blake Jarwin can ball out. The other one that I'm most concerned about is cornerback. They lost Byron Jones. Huge loss. He could basically lock down one side of the field for them. They brought back Anthony Brown, who, again, tidbit of information that no one probably knows here. He was drafted, I believe, in the 6th round. He has a tattoo on his shoulder with a chip, like a potato chip, and his draft number. So he has a literal chip on his shoulder. On his shoulder with his draft number.
Oh, God.
We're going to have to find a picture of that. So they have them. Chidobe Awuzie, 24. I find myself yelling at him more than any other player, maybe Jalen Smith, when I'm watching a Cowboys game. He just seems like he's getting beat every play. He was a 2nd-round pick out of Colorado for them. Huge potential, great athletic skill, but he seems like he just is always out of position. He's getting beat. He's getting penalties. So he makes me nervous. He's another one of those guys like he can play safety, he can play corner. I hate that hybrid. Just keep him at one position. But then they did draft Trevon Diggs, Stephon Diggs' brother out of Alabama. I think he was a steal at 51 overall in the second round this year. But, can you really count on a number one corner his rookie year to kind of be like a lockdown guy? So they make me nervous. So I'm going to go definitely cornerback is my biggest one. And then tight end probably is like 1A.
Yeah, I can see the Cowboys being in a lot of shootouts this year. So
Yep.
Dak Prescott, you know what? He didn't get that long-term deal. You're not going to have much defensive help. So if you win those shootouts, you'll get paid. Like you said, I think Trevon Diggs is going to be good in the future. It just shows the amount of depth that you can get later in the second round of the draft, or you could draft a backup quarterback. You can go either route. You could help your team, or you could waste your second round pick like that. So in the future, I think that could be a strength. But right now, I think you're going to be in a lot of shootouts, which is fitting. We're not going to have Big 12 football. So somebody in Texas can't play defense this year.
Might as well be the Cowboys.
So it's going to be the Cowboys. They should just the weekend of the Red River rivalry. They should just go down and play in the Cotton Bowl and give up 60 points.
Why not?
Just go for old time's sake.
And play against a team that shouldn't, like the Dolphins. To play against the Dolphins and they'll win 64-59.
Pretty much. It got close to that last year when the Eagles played the Dolphins. So
it's magic, baby.
Yeah. All right. So, contrary to Pop, I could go cornerback right here as well, given that performance last year. But Darius Slay really anchored that group. Mine was obvious. I gave it away. We had a linebacker retire. We didn't have much depth to begin with there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: like everybody has an issue in their house. For me, it's my sink. It's been an issue. You need to get it fixed. But now you've just started to put it off for so long that you've just learned to accept the problem and live with it, and you may never fix it. You've just accepted that it sucks, and that's just how it is.
You sleep well at night.
That's how the Eagles have handled linebacker. They've put off fixing the problem for so long that we've just learned to adapt and live with the problem. And now more than ever, we have a leaky sink or a leaky roof, something like that.
Yep.
The dryer doesn't dry, something like that. And that's the Eagles linebacking core. And we've just learned to accept it. And so has the front office.
And you let good parts go. Like you had some good parts to the sink, but then you let, your neighbor have the part like Hicks, and then the sink works perfectly for him, and he leads the league in tackles.
Yeah. So him, I can see because it was like a payment thing where after that Super Bowl year, we just didn't have enough money. So we lost him. But then you followed up consecutive years. So you've lost Jordan Hicks and now you've lost Nigel Bradham, and you really haven't replaced it at all. And you had LJ Fort, who you basically had for nothing, and released him. And then the Ravens signed him, and he's been magnificent. And they've obviously prioritized other positions where Patrick Queen, Kenneth Murray were both there in the first round. I don't knock them for going Jalen Reagor, but it just shows how little they care about the linebacker position, where they just think the front four is going to be so beastly that they can handle it. And on the backside, they have a lot of faith in Darius Slay and the cornerbacks. That right there in the middle, that cushy middle in an Oreo that's supposed to be the best part, really would be like if you had the black strips of the Oreo, and instead of like that vanilla cream, you just filled it with mud. That's kind of how the Eagles have handled linebacker.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Did they draft a linebacker this year?
I don't believe that they did. They have TJ Edwards, who was he was either 7th round pick or actually I lied. They actually took 2 linebackers, and I can't believe I forgot because Sean Bradley went to Temple, and I literally am recording this with the Temple flag behind me.
That's
so I apologize. But here's the thing with both of the linebackers that they drafted, they're not going to play linebacker this year. They're just going to be special teams guys, which is why I forgot. So they basically drafted 2 guys who aren't even going to, they just run fast. They run sideline to sideline really well. But playing time wise, it's going to be a lot like Trevon Diggs. How much impact are they going to have the rookie year? Not much. Do they see the field really? And can you rely on them? Nah, I wouldn't count on it.
All right. So our most concerning for me is cornerback with the Dallas Cowboys, and you're going linebacker. So let's start with you on this one. So what is the position group you are most excited about for your Philadelphia Eagles this year?
Most excited about, I think this one people probably wouldn't guess.
Okay.
I think for most people, like I mentioned before, defensive line should cover a lot of the other issues that they could have and just mask those issues.
Yep.
I think people are excited about wide receiver because they finally have a semblance of health,
Yep.
and they drafted Jalen Reagor. But I'm going to go running back. And here's why. I think
I like
there
it.
are a lot of diamonds in the rough in that running back core. I was a big advocate for signing Devontae Freeman, and I'm not so much anymore.
Okay.
This is the first year. I'm excited for two reasons. One, the diamond in the rough, but two, this is the first year where it's not going to be running back by committee under Doug Peterson. Miles Sanders is going to get 75% to 80% of the touches.
And he should.
And he should. And he's going to be a workhorse. We talked about Christian McCaffrey and how he picks up points in a PPR league because they split him out and use him to get receptions. Same thing for Miles Sanders. And then you've got Boston Scott, Darren Sproles 2.0. They have three guys who are young, either rookie or in their second year, who probably will start the season in practice squad. If you don't see them by October, there's something wrong. Adrian Killins from UCF, Michael Warren from Cincinnati, and then Elijah Holyfield's son.
Love
All
that.
three guys you could see getting playing time at this year. Michael Warren is a big kind of bruiser guy. Adrian Killins might be the fastest guy alive. And then Elijah Holyfield is going to be a really solid number 3 back. He gives you, there's no point in signing Carlos Hyde because Elijah Holyfield is going to probably give you everything that he can do, but on the lowest salary possible. I think.
And younger.
Yeah. They also signed Corey Clement, and one of these guys could be just like Clement, where they didn't even draft Clement. They just brought him in as a free agent, and he was on the practice squad, came up and was a Super Bowl hero. I'm not saying these guys will be Super Bowl heroes, but they can make a legitimate impact on this offense. And for the first time in Doug Peterson era, they have a legitimate RB1.
And think about how much speed this offense can have, especially with those running backs, adding to what Reagor and Deshaun are going to have on the outside.
Absolutely. That is the one thing. So I think in Philadelphia, if you are the boss, if you are the manager or you the GM, you get a lot of criticism. The one thing Howie said, he said two things actually. One, I'm tired of getting the ball thrown over my head. He went out and got Darius Slay. And two, he said this team needs to be faster. Look at all the positions. We just talked about Reagor, but running back as well. They are fast. They are really fast.
And that scares me. Speed kills. All right. Dallas Cowboys.
Give me yours. I want to hear it.
Now, people could be like, well, it's got to be the offensive line, right? They have the best offensive line in the league. No, they don't. Tyron Smith's getting old. Connor Williams is soft. They lost Travis Frederick. I'm a little worried about the line. So it's not the offensive line. Could go running back. Zeke, of course, best running back in the league. Not going there. The most obvious would be wide receiver, right? I mean,
yes,
studs. But that's kind of like too obvious. I don't want to be that obvious. So I'm going to go in a curveball that people may not think, just like you went. I'm going to go defensive line. DeMarcus Lawrence can ball. He didn't last year. He got paid. I think he has not a literal chip on his shoulder, but I think he has a chip on his shoulder coming into this season. People were saying he may not play. He's playing. I hate the term hot boys that they use. I hope they dig a big hole and bury all the hot boys chains and put a gravestone on it. Get rid of it. I hate it. Okay. Even though they trademarked it, I think. Hate it. So DeMarcus Lawrence is going to ball. They brought in Gerald McCoy. They brought in Dontari Poe. Two guys that they've never had before. When they had Rod Marinelli, they liked quick, small, interior players. They've never had beef, big run-stopping guys that can also rush the passer from the inside. They have that now. Yeah, they're both older. Yeah, they may not be in their prime, but they played together in Carolina last year. They know how to play next to each other. I think they can be beasts. They also drafted Gallimore, Nigel Gallimore. He's a Canadian, played in Oklahoma. They got him in the 3rd round this year. I feel like those two guys can groom him, and he looks like he's a beast. They're getting Tyrone Crawford back off injury. He was a huge hole not having him last year. He brings leadership to that line, and the dude can play. Hopefully, he's coming off 2 hip surgeries. They brought in Aldon Smith, right? We talked about Reuben Foster and Darius Geis, but apparently he hasn't drank in forever. He's off the weed. Apparently he's remade his body. He looks great. And they signed him for next to nothing. So if he can bring some sacks, I'm all in. And then there's the question of Randy Gregory, another dude who's had a lot of issues, another dude that supposedly has turned his life around and looks lean and mean, but he is still suspended, not reinstated yet. And he is calling the league out hard on Twitter and everywhere that he can, that he has put in reinstatement papers. He's done everything he needs to do, and hasn't heard anything. Literally, someone from the league that is in charge of this blocked him on Twitter, and he screenshotted it. He's like, this is the response I'm getting. So if they can get him too, I'm all in on this line. I feel like they can be fearsome and they can get after the quarterback.
That's, first of all, I feel like that's pretty unprofessional to just like your job is compliance in this field and you block the guy on Twitter. Like, it's not high school. You can't block somebody just because you don't like what they said. Like, this is your job. But I think the one thing that would scare me a little bit for the Eagles is the veteran production that the Cowboys could get at the defensive line for cheap.
Yep.
You mentioned Dontari Poe and then Gerald McCoy. I think obviously both are past their primes, but still, like I said, for the value that you get them at, to add that depth to the defensive line, it's a pretty good choice. And I just think it reminds me of the Lakers this offseason, just really kind of, they had LeBron and AD and they were like, all right, well now we put most of our salary cap into those two players. What do we have to do? Veteran depth for cheap. Let's go get guys like Avery Bradley. That's pretty much what the Cowboys did with their line. And they invested in DeMarcus Lawrence. They gave money to both of their linebackers and Jalen Smith. Did they sign Leighton Vander Esch yet? Or is that
no? He's still coming. This will be his third year.
But they're playing it like once he's off his rookie year, he'll get re-signed for high.
Hopefully.
Okay. Yeah.
And
so
it is like last year they were throwing Kerry Hyder and Antoine Woods up the middle. And now you got Dontari Poe and Gerald McCoy in there. And Antoine Woods is still there. But again, he's a smaller guy. He's a scrappy guy. But he doesn't have to hold up all game long in there, beaten on these guards. He can come in on more situational downs and use his athleticism and his speed and give those guys a break.
Yeah, I was about to say, for a player that size, it's got to be positional. The Eagles have like Jannard Avery that we traded a 4th-round pick for some reason. He's got to be a situational player. He'll just never be big enough, but that works. Like once you have depth, that starts to make sense.
Yep.
To talk about, keep it local with Philly, the turnaround for the Flyers has been because of they have 4 lines and they're all deep. Same goes for the Cowboys. You know, I really like what they did at defensive line. I think that's a good one. Wide receiver is pretty obvious, but I like where you went with the defensive line.
I'm excited. All right, give me the position group that you feel that the Philadelphia Eagles match up best against the Dallas Cowboys this year in their 2, you never know, maybe 3 matchups this season.
Yeah, hopefully 3. That'd be wild if we could get a playoff game. It's been a while.
It has.
This is a bit of a cop out because I think this is going to be a matchup that favors us in almost every game that we play, but I think it specifically favors us in the Cowboys matchup. So our one big strength, tight end. I really think that tight end, Dallas Goedert killed the Cowboys. He did fumble against the Cowboys last year, but he really killed them in that last game because Ertz lacerated his kidney. But also in that first game, he scored a touchdown as well. They just play the middle of the field so well. Yeah, they really do it well against the Cowboys. Chris Collinsworth did a great job of describing how the Cowboys run their defense and where everyone kind of plays in that zone and everything like that, and how that can benefit tight ends. Well, we have 2 of the best tight ends in the league. And I think this year for sure, if everybody stays healthy on the outside, it's going to benefit Zach Ertz and Goddard on the inside. They finally have some speed to work with. Everyone knocks Carson Wentz every fucking day, even when he's not playing. But one of the knocks that they have against him is that he targets Ertz too much.
Yep.
Well, what the hell are you supposed to do when you're throwing to Greg Ward and JJ Arcega-Whiteside and guys you bring off the practice squad?
Guys you have no relationship with. No chemistry.
Exactly. He has some chemistry with Ertz. That's why he's throwing to him. But it's going to open up the field for Ertz. I think a Dallas Goedert season is going to be a breakout season for him. So like I said, this might be a bit of a cop-out, but I think you play to your strengths in big games like this. This is obviously the most important opponent on the schedule. Play to your strengths. Our strength is tight end.
I think you could not have picked a better matchup against the Cowboys. Jalen Smith can't cover me. Okay.
Yeah.
In that Bears game last year, they literally ran at him 4 straight plays in the end zone and scored.
Yeah.
I think also Leighton Vander Esch is coming off an injury. Joe Smith, Sean Lee is 47 years old. Our linebackers are not going to be able to stay with either of those guys, and they are just going to eat up the middle of the field. And I mean, Dallas Goedert has put a whooping on the Cowboys almost every time he played them. He got that long touchdown taken away, which is still a travesty. I still don't understand that penalty at all.
That hilariously was one of the worst calls that I've ever seen in football.
Ever.
And it wasn't even the worst call in that game. That fumble there were 6 Eagles on the ball.
No clear recovery.
I don't know which one of them recovered it, so just give the ball to the Cowboys.
There was no clear recovery.
I could do an entire podcast. If the NFL season gets canceled, I might just do an entire podcast on that day and why it was the worst officiating day in the history of the NFL. It was 10 times worse than what the Saints had to go through and 10 times worse than the replacement refs up in Seattle on Monday Night Football. It was horrible. Horrible. We should never lost that game.
That's almost like the Cowboys. I believe it's their last playoff win. No, it wasn't against the Detroit Lions when they had the pass interference on Anthony Hitchens, and then we go to commercial break and it's 4th down and they're going to punt, and then all of a sudden we come back from commercial break and they're like, no, we picked up the flag, there's no pass interference, Dallas first down.
After they called the penalty, it wasn't like they got together.
They announced it.
Did he hit him? They called it, said pass interference, automatic first down, and they were like, wait a second. Jerry Jones. Yes. Okay. Vince is bringing up this play right here. I'm going to analyze it for the people at home because you probably remember it. So they call offensive pass interference on Dallas Goedert. First of all, for a league that cares about player safety, quote unquote, the penalty on that play was a helmet to helmet where Jeff Heath launched himself into Goedert and knocked his helmet off. By the end of the play, he doesn't have a helmet on. Instead, they call it on Goedert. So you could have called illegal contact for the bump on the Cowboys outside of 5 yards, or you could have called a personal foul. Either way, it still should have been a touchdown.
You could have called it on Xavier Woods right there as well.
Yeah. And instead, they call offensive pass interference.
I loved it. It was
unbelievable.
Great. Not in Jerry's house.
Oh, my God.
Not in Jerry's house.
That is why I hate the Cowboys. That shit right there.
But I can also call, Dez caught it. I'm not even going to bring that up right now, but we can do a podcast just on awful calls against our teams.
Yeah.
I mean, you go up, right? He went up, caught the ball, brought it to his chest, took 3 steps, and his 3rd step was a lunge and put out the ball and hit the end zone.
Too bad. What are you going to do?
I have never in my sports life gotten from such a high to I was literally 8 feet in the air jumping when he caught that, so excited, to literally 6 feet underground when they said that he dropped the ball. I've never gone from that much of a swing in my sports life.
That really sucks, man. I feel really bad for you. I kind of wish you caught it.
All right, I'm going to talk about my position group that I think has the best ability to whoop on the Eagles this year. And I think it's the wide receivers. I think they are going to beat down your cornerbacks besides Darius Slay. Slay may be able to take Amari Cooper out of the game, but that's fine. I'm throwing Michael Gallup at you. Please don't.
Is this so Vince is brought up the play where
Corey did not. I don't even want to talk about it. That was not a catch. That wasn't. I can't, not right now, because then I'm not going to be able to get through this segment because I'm going to be so upset. So, wide receiver. Darius Slay can take Amari Cooper out of the game. That's fine. Sometimes Amari Cooper takes himself out of the game in the most important time, like the last play of the game with the season on the line.
Tired. He was just too tired for that 4th and 8 with the season on the line.
Yeah, it was just the regular. We were just doing the regular rotation. That was the old Jason Garrett. It was just time for him to come off the field. We were doing regular wide receiver rotation. The season's not on the line. So I'm going to go the wide receivers because if you take one of them out, we're going to throw CeeDee Lamb at you now. I'm going to throw Michael Gallup at you. they're not going to be able to stop it. We have size too. I mean, what Mari's 6'1", CD 6'2", Gallup 6'1". I think Slay is 6'1", but I believe your other corners are a little bit smaller. So we do have size advantage. And I mean, they're all fast. Michael Gallup's quick and he can go get the ball. Amari Cooper is a proficient route runner, especially when he's healthy. And CeeDee Lamb is CeeDee Lamb.
I don't even want to talk about it.
I am so excited for the just the numbers that they're going to put up this season, especially against that Philadelphia secondary.
I wish I had a rebuttal where I was like, you know what, we're going to shut you down, and it's going to be like the early Jim Johnson days. But you were right. Like we said earlier, the Cowboys are going to be in shootouts. It's going to be like Texas Tech out there, or the old Oklahoma State offense. But
the run and gun.
You said, Darius Slay will probably follow Amari.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't completely cancel Amari out for me. He has always had big games against the Eagles. Obviously, Darius Slay was always better than whatever we would put out on the field to cover him. But like you said, depth is so key. Michael Gallup, very underrated. I think he could give the Eagles defense problems. He has in the past. You mentioned size. That's another big thing where Darius Slay is the only corner over 6 foot. The slot corner, and Vince is pulling it up for us right now. Nicole Roby-Coleman was a great signing, but he's only 5'8". Avonte Maddox is 5'9". All these guys, I mean, they barely crack 5'10". And then you want them to go out and cover CeeDee Lamb. Ask Texas what happens when you have undersized guys against CeeDee Lamb. It just doesn't work. That guy is going to end up becoming my Jason Tatum. I know it's going to happen.
You'd love to hate him.
I know it's going to happen. I'm a Sixers fan as well, obviously, like all Philly. Every time Jason Tatum plays against the Sixers, he balls out, and it's a reminder of what could have been. The same thing is going to happen with CeeDee Lamb. If we could have jumped up to 16, he'd be an Eagle. Instead, he's just going to rip us apart twice a year, every year for the next decade.
My hot take, you can screenshot this, you can remember it, you can record it, write it down if you want to. I think by the second Cowboys-Eagles game, Darius Slay is going to be shadowing CeeDee Lamb, not Amari Cooper.
That is honestly a pretty good take. I just think with his size and explosiveness, after he catches the ball, I still worry about the secondary. Malcolm Jenkins was their best tackler, and there's nothing wrong with Rodney McLeod, but they are so undersized. They're going to have a lot of issues with those big physical receivers. You even saw it last year with Devontae Parker. He just ate them alive. Any big physical guy like that, they just don't have anybody who can cancel that out. They allow them to make big catches and then big plays after the catch because they just don't have that size and speed.
And then they're going to throw their athletic big tight end right up the middle in Blake Jarwin, who's 6'5".
Yeah. And that's one of the things I love about Goddard and having Ertz is the big guys like that. So we'll see, but I think you picked a good one with the wide receivers. I think if you'd ask any Eagles fan, if something concerned you about the Cowboys, what would it be? It would be the receivers. And I think part of that is we've been so scarred by our cornerbacks in the past. Since the Lito Shepherd days, things just haven't gone well. And I think we've just been scarred, especially with Nnamdi Asomugha. So hopefully Darius Slay can turn it around for us.
I was going to go another position, quarterback, obviously, just because of Andy Dalton, the signing. But I think I'll go with the receivers.
Look, as a redhead, I will support Andy Dalton 100%.
Do you think Andy Dalton plays a game this year for the Cowboys?
I think there's a solid chance because here's the thing in the NFL. Rarely do quarterbacks make it all 16 games. I know we talk about the
Dak has never missed a game.
And Dak has never missed a game. I don't root for anybody's injury. I just think statistically there's a good chance that he could miss a game due to injury, especially mobile quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson has had 2 ACL reconstruction surgeries. Wentz has obviously missed games. Aaron Rodgers, who moves around, has broken his collarbone twice. A lot of these guys, if you were mobile, we worry about Lamar Jackson too. He got banged up.
Yep.
Cam Newton, another one. The guys who are mobile end up getting hurt. I think statistically speaking, Dak Prescott could get hurt, which would suck on a 1-year deal, but it's been 4 years and he's been safe.
And I think I do believe that Dak was a lot more hurt in that last game against the Eagles than they were letting on. That shoulder, he couldn't. I mean, Come on, he throws the ball better than that. Not much better, but better than that. His shoulder was messed up. So something like that happens again. And if it's in the middle of the season, the Cowboys, now that they have an actual backup quarterback like Andy Dalton, they may not take the chance in the middle of the season. And I could see an Andy Dalton playing a game or two, where last year when they had no backup quarterback, they had to push Dak.
Well, I'm sorry you had to deal with injuries in that last game. That must have been tough for you. But even Dak, I feel like if you're on a 1-year deal, not just the Cowboys, but Dak would be like, you know what? I'm not going to risk my future 4 or 5-year deal where I'm going to push $35 million a year playing on a bum shoulder. So I can definitely see him being like, you know what? You didn't pay me, so figure it out on your own.
See ya.
See ya.
Well, we will see you next week.
Nice.
We covered a ton today. We're gonna definitely probably be doing around the coronavirus again next week. Hopefully, we'll be 1 week closer to the NFL, and hopefully, we'll be 1 week more excited about the NFL.
I agree, and I want to end with this. This is the last podcast we will do this year where football players will not be in pads and a helmet. By the time we talk to you next, they will be on the field practicing full pads, getting ready for a season.
That makes me excited.
We're getting closer.
And
everybody else is getting further away.
We need people to realize, too, that there will be positive tests during camp and during the season, but we can only hope that the NFL has a plan for it.
Knowing the NFL, they'll just keep on moving. We'll just keep on moving. The train keeps on going.
The train will roll. As always, I am KMess. Find me on Twitter at KMess22. We are powered by Branded Sports, Brandon_sports on Twitter.
I am Aidan_34_powers on Twitter. And also, thanks again to our sponsor in Bovada. Like we said, link will be in the podcast description below.
Make sure you tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody to follow, rate, and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, and our Twitter account, Birds vs. Boys Pod.
Till next time.
See ya.